And SiriusMined will be here soon. And joining us tonight, or joining me actually right now, is Zaunstar and Peach. Say hi. And joining us tonight, joining me actually right now, is wow. I can hear me.
That's not through mine. I don't think. Oh, you had it on your phone.
Me, no.
No?
No. Somebody watching the feed?
No. No.
Oh. It's gone now.
Okay.
And let's see, where's Joe? He's online. Maybe he'll be popping in a minute. Who knows?
Well, good evening, love.
Hey. Wow. Zaunstar, I haven't seen you in like pretty close to forever.
It's been a fair amount of time.
You're
think
silent again. What happened? Why does it keep doing that? Hang on.
What
There
happened?
you go. The tab here keeps muting on its own. Like up on the tab, it mutes.
Mutes who?
I'm sorry?
Who was muted though?
You guys. For me, I couldn't hear anything.
He's saying that his actual browser tab, or she's saying rather, her actual. Yeah, I'm off to a great start. All right. Yeah, so sorry. Your browser tab was muted, right? Not us.
Yeah, I could hear you just fine.
Yeah, but I couldn't hear you guys.
Well, okay. Well, then it muted. Then your browser muted it. But
you know the
like
little
everybody else
speaker symbol on the tab?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was an X on it, and I don't know why. It just did it by itself. And
well, the
that's
important
something
thing
new.
is it didn't mute the live stream, is what I mean.
No, but it's hard for me to converse with people if I can't hear them.
Fair enough.
You don't have a hotkey to something, do you? Like the mute.
I don't think so.
Okay.
So weird. It's the second time it did that tonight in just this like 3 minutes. So anyway, Zaunstar, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Everything is going okay. It's been a few years I think since we last talked. It's probably been like I'd say 2 or 3 years. It hasn't been super long because I know I was on 1 or 2 of these I think a while ago if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And so it was definitely post-pandemic. I just don't remember exactly when. But Peach, I don't think you were on the one that I was on. So I think it's been several years since we've spoken. So it's great to see you as well.
At least.
At least, yes.
Are you still jet setting the world?
I'm trying. I'm headed to Elon's home country next month, which fortunately for me though he won't be there. So I guess that's a plus.
And now of course not. He's here.
Right, he's here causing chaos here. But yeah, I'll be in South Africa for about 10 days. So that'll be fun, a little vacation. I've been there for work, but I had not been there otherwise, and Mrs. Zaunstar wants to see it too. So, and add Africa to her continents list as well. So that's a little.
Yeah, why not? Gonna get his hand in Johannesburg?
Probably not. Although actually in Joburg we are gonna do a safari thing there. So like we're gonna go to one of the national parks there and do some safari type stuff. So that'll be cool. Not Kruger though. I know Kruger is the big one, but that's up in the northeast. This one's a lot closer to Joburg. But yeah, looking forward to
Joburg.
Yep, they all call it Joburg there. Nobody in South Africa calls it Johannesburg. So,
Is it New Orleans?
Babe, I only heard like half of what you just said. I don't know why.
I don't know why. My mic is like right here in my face.
Maybe you just start out speaking a little too low, so it cancels out thinking that you're noise.
Well, I mean, I kind of am.
Raven is full of nothing. Is full of not full of noise.
Right. So I don't know why it's doing. It shouldn't. But anyway,
But so yeah, that's the next jet setting, I guess, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I don't travel much for work anymore. I used to travel quite a bit for work. But now I have not traveled for work since February 2020, and that wasn't all because of the pandemic. It just kind of happened that way a bit, and my role changed a little bit, and so I'm not for several years. I haven't been as client facing as I was, so I haven't been doing as much of that sort of thing. But yeah, I do kind of miss it. I do. I have always enjoyed traveling around. So, but what have you guys been doing? Any travel for you guys or anything like that? Or
Kind of hard now with the boys.
well, yeah, that's true. I mean, I saw you were at a political event recently, some sort of event where there were, and I saw that Raven posted something about someone had feelings about your shirts or something like that. I forgot what was it that happened.
Yeah, so actually that was a couple weeks ago in a neighboring town. So it's not like we had to go far. But I had made some custom shirts for myself and the boys that said, "No, Elon, I'm autistic. You're just an a-hole in a k-hole." And
Right.
while we were there, everybody, were nothing but compliments about the shirts. But then when I posted photos, some uh, Karen had a cow over it, and
Oh, right.
started posting it. She started posting that in a Facebook group called Sussex County, New Jersey for Trump. Trying to incite hate towards me, but nobody bought. Nobody was biting, so I just kind of ignored her.
Gotcha.
She isn't just any Karen, no. I mean, she's a trophy wife for a former state. What was his title? What was it? Congressman in the state.
I don't know.
He was in the legislature.
A
Okay.
federal congressman or
No, in the state.
the state? No.
Yeah, she's a young, kind of pretty thing, and he's a
Right.
75-year-old man.
Oh, like a Caroline Levitt kind of situation.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right, a little bit like that.
yeah. She's a trad wife.
The trad wife, yeah. Boy, that whole movement, that is something else. The whole trad wife thing, it is, yeah, it's
It is something else. Exactly what I don't know, but it is definitely something else.
I don't know either. And it even seems like a lot of the people who choose to be trad wives eventually end up being like, hey, this kind of sucks, and then they end up not being trad wives anymore, even if they're still conservative. They still, but being a trad wife seems to give people a lot of license to simply not treat them well, and
Yeah, I mean, go figure.
yeah,
Well, it's a scam because it became popular because of social media, where you have these women who, claim to be trad wives, but they look, flawless, and they do all these elaborate made from scratch meals that they serve to their families of 10 kids, and they make it seem effortless, only to find out that they're faking it. They're
right.
not doing what they're saying they're doing. So when people who are buying into that fantasy try it for themselves and realize that it's completely untenable, they find out the hard way that being a trad wife is sucks. Yeah.
It sucks in a word.
And that's
So,
not to say that being a homemaker sucks.
sure, of course not. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's just it's the obligation part of it that makes it
Yeah, it's
what it is.
it's
Seems
the
like.
message that is the only way a woman can feel f- I guess fulfilled in her
Right.
role.
Yeah. Yep. Seems so.
One of is wide awake. I don't know if you can hear him.
We can't hear him.
No, you guys, you can't hear me.
I can't hear him through your feed, and I hear him outside the door, but
Right.
I don't
I
think
get
the
yeah.
audience can hear him.
He's
He's jumping up.
that is all, he's shouting all kinds of da 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 da.
The younger one or the older one?
The older one. The
The
younger
older
one's
one.
asleep,
Yeah.
mercifully.
Mercifully.
He's
He's a terror.
Kai is the devil.
Yeah, I mean, we used to be non-believers, and then we had Kai.
Right.
Kai is the devil.
That's right. I birthed the Antichrist.
Oh well, bound to happen sooner or later. They've been warning us for centuries. Sure enough.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've been looking for the wrong signs, though. Like, he won't stay out of the safe. That wasn't on signs for the Antichrist, but apparently that's one of them.
Yeah.
Rips books. That wasn't one of the signs of the Antichrist, but apparently it is.
Right.
He's 4 years old and he destroys literature.
Oh no.
I know, it's terrible.
And
Destroys more books than Ron DeSantis.
Almost.
and he loves drawing on the walls with
Yeah.
Sharpie.
Oh, I think I saw that. I think I saw that picture as well. I think I showed Mrs. Zaunstar, and that was that definitely was not one of those things like, gee, I wish we would have had kids because she's never been like that in the first place. But if she ever was going to be, it's that kind of thing that would be like, nope.
I completely understand people who don't want to have kids.
Right.
It's exhausting.
I am sweating like crazy. You're not hot. I am.
I have a fan going.
Oh.
You could have brought the fan out there.
I could have, but I didn't. Oh well.
Okay, fine. Sweat.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Yeah.
If the screen right here wasn't busted out of the window from the Antichrist, I'd open the window.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, we have to replace the screen. That's just one other thing that we have to repair because of him.
Oh.
How many times have we had to rush him to the emergency room because he put something in his mouth that didn't belong there?
It's been a few.
No.
Only 4 years old.
Wow.
He's actually been rushed to the emergency room more than the other 3 kids put together. So.
And he's not a sickly child either. These are all accidents.
Right. Right.
Mishaps.
I like that.
Right.
So what do you want to talk about, love?
What do you think I want to talk about? I mean, there's not a whole lot going on in the world, so figured we could talk about art.
No.
The state of music today.
I'm out of touch with that.
I just got tickets to see the Struts in August.
Oh wow, you go to concerts?
Yeah, I don't go to many concerts. I've been to I could probably count them on my 2 hands that I've gone to in my life, like actual like concerts where you get tickets and go to them, not just impromptu. I happen to be passing by like some sort of event that has a concert. Like I haven't gone to a lot of concerts, but I've been trying to do it a little more. I saw Franz Ferdinand last month, and it was a lot of fun actually, and I enjoyed that. So I'll see. See the Struts.
I apologize. I am so distracted.
By what?
Damon.
Oh.
You don't hear him?
I hear him. I have the door closed, so he's,
He sounds like he's doing a rain dance in there. I want to shout. That's racist.
You're sort of what do you call it? Your ability to ignore it doesn't seem as high powered as Peach's ability to ignore the sounds coming.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of like I get like laser focused on what they're doing.
Mm,
He's just watching
So
TV and stimming. So I mean,
yeah,
it's not getting into anything. I'm just hoping he tires himself out. I hope the medication kicks in and he falls asleep.
yeah. He's not much of a sleeper.
No. That kid was born with an insane amount of anxiety. He has not wanted to spend a single night sleeping alone since, well, never. Not even the night he was born. I was not able to put him down at all.
wow.
And he never wanted to sleep in his bassinet. He always wanted to sleep in our bed.
Mhm.
7.5 years, he still doesn't sleep all night by himself.
Nope.
Wow.
I've not had a full night of sleep since before he was born. So I'm a little frazzled all the time.
Wow.
So yeah, Zonstar, that's how we're doing. Okay, you wanted to know.
That's how you're doing. I did actually want to know. And yeah, well, I hope that road gets a little smoother over time. I
Me
mean,
too.
Any day now.
yeah, I have. So a good friend of mine, his has a son who's on spectrum as well, and he's about 13 now, and he's actually doing really well, like super well. Um, like they also got him into occupational, is it occupational therapy?
Yeah.
I feel like it is. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. That and like speech therapy and stuff. And he does very well. Because originally they were like, oh, he's like moderate to severe, but like if you meet him, like no one would ever be like, oh, he's severe. Like he really like he's good with conversation and everything, and like there are different things like there's a lot of times when he likes to just put his headphones on and just play Minecraft or whatever, and he just wants to do that and not talk to anybody. But when he's ready to talk, like he'll really talk about all kinds of things, and like he'd be pretty engaging. But when he was younger, there was a lot of the stimming and not even stimming and just various other behaviors uh, that made him stand out more. But he's gotten through a lot of that. So I don't know, to whatever extent. I have no idea what the trajectory is of your kids, but hoping
Nobody does.
nobody does.
I, for instance, doesn't have any words.
Yeah.
He's nonverbal. He's basically completely nonverbal. He's learning how to use a talker, a communications device,
Mhm.
and a little bit of sign language. Damon, he has words. He's just non-conversational.
Yeah. He doesn't know
So,
how to use language, even though he has
yeah,
a very large vocabulary.
he
Hmm.
advocates for his own needs. Can I have
Sometimes.
some milk, please?
Yeah,
Okay.
but those are phrases that we had to teach him. We
Mhm.
had to teach him how to ask for things, because even though he knows what words mean, he doesn't know how to put them together to express his thoughts. And it's so frustrating. We don't understand why.
They're both a lot of work. Kai is a lot more work than Damon. Kai he's the Antichrist.
He just never stops getting
He
into
never
stuff.
stops.
Not until he
Yeah.
goes to sleep.
Yeah, he's high powered, fast moving.
Right.
You can hear him getting into something, and then you run to stop him. And by the time you get to where he was, you hear him in something else. He's like
Yeah.
Dennis the Menace. He's just
Right.
constantly on the move, breaking things.
We're too old for this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would be too. I'll be 52 this summer. Practically old.
Yes,
Not as old as
country.
Raven, though. Not quite. You're always just a few years ahead of me, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm 54 this year.
Right.
What's up, Phil? I am so distracted by him. He's usually asleep by the time that we're on.
I'm sure he'll wear out at some point.
Yeah, probably. Ah, shut up, Phil.
Turn 24 every year. There you go. I should start doing that.
I wish I could pull that off.
But then again, I'd be younger than your kids, so no, never mind.
Yeah.
That could be awkward.
I mean, the oldest now is 30. So.
That's right. The dev in Dev Shell is 30 now,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
The dev in Dev Shell is 30, yeah.
Yep.
And the shell in Dev Shell is 27. So,
Oh, excellent.
And newly engaged.
newly engaged, yeah.
Very nice.
I
Not really.
yeah. I mean,
Not really.
yeah, not really.
We don't like
I-
him.
Oh,
And we
if
don't
she's
like
happy,
him for her.
Yeah, yeah, he's not good for her. If
yeah.
I can't choose that though. I mean, she has to. Well,
Make
Yeah.
her own make her own
if
mistakes.
she's happy, I'm happy for her.
Right.
So. But,
Yep. I got married at 27 myself. So. Yep. It seems young. It seems very young now. It seems like, oh wow, 27, yeah, right, 27. But
Yeah, I think you guys are going to work out, but I don't think I don't think this one it will.
no.
I don't want to see her go through, a divorce and a breakup and everything.
I don't either.
But yeah, I mean, I understand the I don't think it's going to work out thing because like you said, right? In order for relationships to work, there's two ingredients that you need, right? You have to have the same values and you have to want the same things.
Right.
If either one
They
of
don't
those
have the same
is,
values.
they don't have the same values. If either one of those things is off, you're going to have a problem.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a pretty big thing for sure. Like there are a lot of people who think that it's more about interests and but you're right to what you just said. It is more about values and goals, what you want, or goals/goals. That's more
They
what
want
it
the
is.
same things. They want the same things, and so that's a plus.
Okay.
But I mean, she's kind of non-political, but she's on the left side of things
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, she's my daughter. I mean, how could she
Right.
not be?
Sure.
And he's MAGA.
Right.
Um,
To what
and the white
extent?
supremacist, and
No.
yeah, it's and
Well, that's
transphobe and homophobe and yeah.
And he doesn't believe in interracial couples, so people like me shouldn't exist.
but that's I don't understand why. But she's okay with him.
Exactly. That's
Yeah,
my point.
exactly.
Why is none of that a deal breaker for her? It's something I've been like fuming about for years since she started going out with him.
Yeah,
Like,
me too.
I mean, and that's at that level too of basic bigotry is like something that is I won't say rare, but there's definitely a lot more. There are a lot more people out there who are sort of more low key racist or racist in a way that's like they don't. I wouldn't say it's like it's sort of just unknowing sometimes racism, but for
Right.
someone to be out and about like, oh, people of different races shouldn't.
Yeah,
be
no,
better.
he's definitely MAGA style. I mean, he's MAGA. And I mean, he had a "Let's Go Brandon" sticker on his car, and he's Trump. He's MAGA. He's the
Right.
whole deal.
There's a
And
ton of
I
MAGA people who would never be not okay with an interracial relationship. There's plenty of MAGA people who wouldn't care about that, but
I
like,
talked to her about what it is. Why? What does it? Why that's not a deal breaker? And she's just like, he's good to me.
that's a really low bar.
boy,
And I'm like, you get a puppy would be good to you,
Yeah.
and there's also a lot of people when I hear he's good to me, I also it's the same kind of thing that I hear when it's like I'm a nice guy. It's sort of that. It's that I get that same tick, I guess, when I hear that.
Yeah. Apparently, there's a big motivation.
It's something I have to often keep my mouth shut about when she comes over because, yeah, it pisses me off because she
Yeah.
could do way better. But she's just, I feel like she doesn't think she can or doesn't have the energy to find somebody who isn't, a racist piece of shit.
Mm-hmm.
He's good to me. Well, a lot of people be good to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
He's
also,
not good for you, though.
right. And what does that even mean? Like, good to you? That just means like he doesn't hit her. I mean, that's like how is is that it?
Yeah. I know. It's like Pete said. That's just a really low bar.
Yeah, it is. But I'm trying to figure out is it like 1 inch or is it like 3 inches high off the ground? Kind of like is it really that basic that?
She knows. She knows how we feel about him.
Mhm.
He knows how we feel about him. And obviously, we know how he feels about us. So we don't see him because he used to live here, and we didn't know this about him until the day they moved out. She made the mistake of letting it slip. And it was just like, really, this dude was living in our house while thinking this way. That's fucked up.
Oh, so
But
she accidentally told you what
yeah,
happened.
yeah. So we haven't seen him since. So when she comes, it's
She's
just
not
her.
missed.
For the holidays, yeah, we don't miss him. So for the holidays, she comes, it's just her. When she visits, it's just her. He doesn't come, which is fine.
Right. Hmm.
A divorce or two under your belt, and you'll learn. Yeah, but I don't want her to go through that, though.
Well, of course you
I,
don't.
I am a parent. I would prefer she avoid that.
Right.
I would
And
too, but she
yeah,
is intent on learning the hard way, and there's nothing we can do about it.
and I've been through a divorce. It ain't pretty.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
I've
think.
seen many divorces.
Yeah. Yep. Seen a lot. I think Peach, you were talking at one because your parents are divorced, right? Because
Yes.
I seem to remember at some point you were talking about that. I don't know if it was a video or if there was something you were talking about that.
It was probably a live stream from like a million years ago. But yeah,
Probably.
yeah, they had probably one of the ugliest breakups I've ever seen. And I mean they weren't young and dumb when they got married, but they didn't get married for a good reason. So when it blew up, it was just like, yeah, you shouldn't have married in the first place.
Right. Yeah. Because I also remember your dad used to sometimes come to your live streams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
He used to come to mine.
Because he came to some of mine too. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he came to some of mine.
He was a
Like, made friends
fan
with
of
all of
mine.
Peach's friends.
It was weird, huh?
Like,
Yeah.
oh, there's Peach's dad. Hey, how's it going, Peach's dad?
He was a fan of my channel until we became a couple.
Oh, but then he wasn't?
Right?
No.
No. Well. Well.
I went from cool to uncool very quickly.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I am so distracted.
I
He's
was
killing me.
thinking about trying to maybe going in there and trying to get him to settle down. But honestly, love, the audience can't hear him.
Yeah, I can't hear him.
That's good.
I have not heard a single peep from him. So
It's just so distracting. He's
Yeah. That's how he stims when he's like really excited watching something he enjoys. He's just very loud. The woman gets whatever they want in Canadian courts. I feel like that's a generalization, but I'm not Canadian. But still, it seems a bit like a generalization.
yeah, that sort of feels like early 2000s MRA sort of a talk. I mean, it's one of those things like, yeah, I'm sure there are some kernels in there that are like, yeah, they could do better, but ultimately, there's also a lot in the justice system that is determined by money, and in a lot of cases, when something like that hits the fan, there are a lot of times where it's the man that ends up having more money to do it, to get their way. So, to the extent that that happens, that's biased in the other direction. So,
So often though is like there are men that'll cry and complain about how they got screwed or whatever,
mhm.
and when there's children involved, and then it's just like, oh, do you want custody of the kid? No. Oh well, then you know what? Shut the fuck up. Then shut the
Right.
fuck up and pay.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's see,
Seems to me the
Phil.
man is speaking from experience when it takes
Well,
full
he's
sun.
one person, and that's what I'm saying. He's one person, and I'm not saying his experience doesn't matter. It's just what he stated was a generalization of how Canadian courts, I guess, have their divorce proceedings. That the woman always comes out on top. I'm pretty sure that's not always the case, because that's not always the case anywhere. People say that about American divorce court.
Mhm. Yeah, they always say that, and I always wonder about the details. And of course, I don't have the time or the energy to sort through every single time someone tells me that that's the case. But it's usually it's of course always a dude that's saying this, and it's like, and sometimes it's personal experience, and I do feel for that. I don't summarily dismiss that, like, oh, that I'm sure that that they were fine to you, and maybe even, I'm sure there were some people who were hurt or wronged or whatever, but as a whole, yeah, it's hard to take that from those statements sometimes, especially given how I know some of those people who say that. I'm not, again, not talking about you, Phil, or anybody in particular, but there are certainly quite a few men's rights activists. I mean, Twitter is full of them, who also say a lot of other things, and I'm like, yeah, I think I understand now why people dislike you. So, yeah. Killer Clock. I feel like I think I know that person. I remember the name at least. I don't think he's been
Always
around a
came to
long time.
my live streams. I don't know about anybody else, but always in mine for years. Long time viewer.
Loyal.
Right.
Well, I don't have my subscriber count on the channel is just under 2,000, and it's been that for over 10 years,
Right.
about 15 years
Mhm.
or so. And, so it doesn't change a whole lot, doesn't grow, doesn't shrink. I've been off the algorithm so long that I don't think anybody gets notifications when I'm on anymore. I think it'll take time for that to kind of kick in again.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm sure it'll take some time.
but I
Well,
mean, the
what
the
people
the,
have
the
to do
fans
is,
that I do have, the loyal fans I do have, are pretty loyal. They've like
well,
Clock here.
they also have to like and comment to get the algorithm going for you again.
Yeah, yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, it's Joe.
There's
Joe.
Joe.
Wait,
Hey.
I don't know why my color is washed out. Like everything is weird. I don't know.
Yeah, that is weird. What'd you do?
Nothing. Same setup as last time, but
How you
His
doing, Joe?
camera is jaundiced.
yeah,
Camera's jaundiced.
yeah. So I'm in just so you know, I'm in a lugubrious mood. So
Well, I've seen it, Joe. It's been a few years, a couple of years at least, I think, since I've seen you too. Probably the same as the last time I saw Raven, whatever that
yeah,
was.
actually, well, last time you and I saw each other, Eric, was on at 2019. Was when I did my trip where my walkabout where I ended up in Austin at the end because
Right.
I stopped to see you. I saw Landon Taylor, and I saw a college friend of mine. That stretch, that part of the trip.
Nice. That was in Maryland. I think we met in Maryland or something.
Yeah,
If I remember correctly. Yeah, because I drove up there. Yeah. Excellent. Well, glad to see you. Glad to see you as well. And my condolences, of course, on your little pup.
Thank you.
but perhaps there will be more small white fluffy dogs in the near future.
we have two. Like, we got almost 4 years ago now. Is a Lily and Nemo.
Right.
And Flash used to. He was Papa Bear. He kind of adopted them, and he took over where Blitzen left off with him, like cleaning their eyes and their ears and so
Nice.
forth. Yeah.
Fun.
So we didn't think he had it in him, but he stepped up, and he was so to kind of turn a line from Guardians of the Galaxy on its head. He wasn't their father, but he was their daddy.
Right. Yep. Very nice.
But
yep.
Actually, I'm glad you're on. Well, for a lot of reasons, but I don't. Do you watch baseball at all?
Very almost never. But I went to a baseball game, like a month ago. It was like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And it was because I was telling you about it. It was the Mets game.
Oh, right.
It was the Mets-Nats game where the Nats got a triple play that should not have been a triple play because the ump didn't see that the ball skipped just before it hit his glove, and then they got the 3 out. It was, and there was there were videos. You showed me the video. The John Boy Media one. It has like millions of views about that triple play that should never have been. And for those who don't watch baseball, I don't know much about baseball either, but I've watched it enough over the years to sort of understand it. Like a triple play is something that happens, I think they said an average of like 12 to 15 times per season. Like the entire baseball season, this will happen maybe like a dozen times. And I was there in the stands when there was a triple play, but it shouldn't have been because the replay showed he actually did not catch it. So it might have ended up being a double play anyway, but it shouldn't have been a triple play. So, but it was kind of funny.
Well, the reason why I ask is I'm planning on coming down to see an Orioles game with Steve Shives and possibly with Tombstone if he hasn't responded back yet, but Steve has. So it's in your area, so you're welcome to join us if you so desire.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, Baltimore is especially to go to the stadium. That's a good hour and a half-ish. I'm on the other side of DC, so it's a little further. But when are you going approximately?
I want to say it was July. Okay. Because the Mets are playing Baltimore once like 3 games this year.
Right, won't be very many because it's NL versus AL. See, I know that. I know there's certain things that I know about baseball, but I'm definitely not I'm more of a football guy. But
yep. But so what
doesn't like sports ball?
what was the what has been the topic of conversation?
Nothing really. Complaining about life.
Complaining about unruly children marrying the wrong people.
Right.
Yeah, life things.
Yeah.
I figured we would eventually jump on the
Damon's behind you.
Train, so to speak. What?
Damon's behind you.
You have a small child was behind you.
Oh, I didn't even see him.
Yeah, he was behind. Yeah, he was in the doorway for a second. Well, the door is now open. It wasn't open before. So.
But yeah, I don't get into too many discussions anymore with right wingers because it's pointless. Mm-hmm. But there was an article that was on basically people. It had to do with Trump's stupid parade that he wants, and most of the people were against it. But of course, there's one guy is like, oh, you liberals, there's so many wins. You really got to stretch your brains to come up with reasons to hate him. And I'm like, what wins are you referring to? And I'm like,
I keep seeing stuff like that.
And I'm like, are you a defense contractor? Because I mean, if you want to say, okay, the sale of weapons to Saudi Arabia, if you're a defense contractor or work for one, yeah, I guess you're going to make out on that. But I'm like, and of course he didn't respond. He responded, but he didn't actually give an answer. He didn't actually say what these wins were. And he's like, oh, just watch this channel. I'm like, no, tell me, tell me which ones. What wins did we get that you're aware of that I apparently am not?
So, Phil, here's a take on the airplane. It's illegal. It
Massively.
violates the Constitution. He should leave the fucking airplane with them because he has no business taking it, and it's going to cost us more money than it's worth. So, in order for them to use that as a government vehicle, they're going to have to strip the entire thing down. They're going to have to dismantle it and then put it back together again to make sure that it isn't bugged and there's no trackers on it and that there's no security risk or bombs or any, so. And that's going to cost. I've seen estimates from anywhere between $500 million to $1 billion to do that.
Well, plus they have to add in all the security features that Air Force One requires, which it's going to be easily over $1 billion to do it all. Easily.
So yeah. So
yeah, it's odd too because he keeps saying like, oh, it's a gift. He keeps framing it as, oh, it's a gift to the country. But I'm like, right. Can I ride it? No. Can anyone else ride it? Can anyone else ride it?
Me first. Me first.
Yeah.
Me first.
Well, and the other thing on top of that too is I was watching something yesterday. Apparently, the Air Force One that Ronald Reagan used, or at least one of them, there's always more than one. One of those was actually donated to his library, but it was already rendered inoperable.
Right.
So once it went into the museum, you couldn't fly it anymore.
Right.
So, and that's the thing, Phil. He's not taking it with him. He thinks he is. In order for him to take the airplane and to own it, he would have to pay its value. He would have to pay the $400 million. He doesn't have money like that.
No.
He pretends he has money like that. He doesn't have that. It's not going to happen. It'll end up being donated to his presidential library. But as Joe said, it's not going to be usable. It's going to be rendered useless. So,
yeah,
he's an idiot.
And the thing is, it's like it's an obvious bribe, right? It's just so like patently obvious. And
it's an emolument.
yeah, and you know, what I want to know is so there's really kind of like two types of Republicans now. There's Republicans who are totally on board with whatever he does. He could literally do, like he said, kill somebody on Fifth Avenue and get in. They'd be like, they come up with an excuse as to why it was okay. And then there's the scared ones, the cowards. And you know, Lisa Murkowski even talked about this, that there's a lot of them that are running scared. And I'm like, what are you afraid of? Your job? If that's it, then you don't deserve your fucking job.
No, they're afraid they're going to get killed by their own constituents. They have, with the help of Fox News, have spent so many years, you know, riling up their voters, their constituents, that now they no longer have any control at all. And if they say anything that their followers don't like, they might get shot.
Yeah, and which tells you that they made a deal. In effect, made a deal with the devil. And now they're like, well, what do you do? Like, well, you know what? I thought if you're a patriot, you know, and that's the thing too, because they always love to paint themselves as patriots. Well, patriots risk their own lives for the country, right? So where's the patriotism?
Yeah, and they're not patriots; they're nationalists.
Right.
I mean, I remember saying years ago, before Donald Trump was even, a political figure, when he was just, a younger schmuck, that the worst thing that has happened to this country is Fox News. And I mean, that's pretty much been, that's
pretty much proven
out to be, terrible.
Yeah. And, and that's the thing to me, because look, Trump, to steal a line from Chaplin, as long as men die, liberty will never perish. Trump will not live forever.
Right.
But the fact that there are so many Americans that are perfectly fine with authoritarianism, as long as it's their brand of authoritarianism, perfectly fine with, effectively a king.
It's all the people who are, oh, the leopards are eating my face now. Right? There's a lot of those out there.
Mm.
Um,
The leopards are feasting heartily.
yeah.
There was,
Both parties basically get most of their campaign dollars from what I consider to be open bribery. Do they have to do what lobbyists want? Technically, no. Then the money drives up for next time.
sure. Yeah, that's the system we have right now. And until there's kind of campaign finance reform that'll actually pass muster with the Supreme Court, corporations are people. Anyone,
Yeah.
until that changes, it's going to be like that.
Yeah.
Citizens United.
Yeah, it's one of the worst. Basically, there's Dred Scott and then Citizens United. That's like the two worst rulings ever.
1A, 1B.
The full name of that was Citizens United Against Her, wasn't it?
Against who?
Hillary.
Oh, was it? Yeah, it might have been.
I will look it up.
Joe with his speedy Google fingers.
No, Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission.
FEC. Right.
Yeah, this was argued in 2009. So
Whoops.
this was before. Oh, well, I guess technically after she was a candidate. So I don't think it necessarily had anything to do with her. But.
Right.
Okay, actually, so Citizens United produced a documentary, Celsius 4111, critical of Fahrenheit 9/11 and 2004 Democratic nominee John Kerry. And this is one thing that because I saw John Kerry's name. This is one of the things that I think that it was one of the legitimate criticisms of the Democrats. Only the Democrats could have a guy who was a military guy who got the Medal of Honor and then get painted as like a weakling, right? And they did their little Purple Heart bandages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And basically our answer was nothing. I mean, how the fuck did we let that happen?
John Kerry, the whole Swift boat.
Yeah. Swift boater,
And what got to me is one of the guys who claims that he didn't really do anything was one of the guys who put him up for the fucking award. So I'm like, oh, so you saying that you fraudulently nominated somebody for an award? Because that's what I would would have been saying. Well, you thought that he did nothing. Why did you vouch for him?
Yeah, there were even people. I remember there was part of the book was something about John Kerry shot someone in the back, like a Viet Cong in the back or something like that. But he wasn't surrendering. He was just like, oh, he got shot in the back, but it wasn't one of a prisoner situation or something.
Right.
And there are people who are just making up the rules of war, and Raven has been in the military, so I'll defer to her on that. But I know it's been a year or two since you've been in, but what?
A year or two? Couple decades,
give or take a couple decades, yeah. But
a few decades.
But I'm pretty sure shooting an enemy combatant that's not surrendering in the back, and it's not a war crime.
Acceptable. That is acceptable.
Right.
They don't have to be facing you.
Right. Exactly.
Just to be considered a threat.
I'm safe. Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Joe, I'm liking your place. Very good. Wow, you must be doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I figure that at least gets rid of some of the washout anyway. I'm washed out now, not the whole screen. And the other thing I've been arguing with somebody, that apparently I'm not sure where it happened, but some guy apparently he watched porn and his wife got jealous and cut off his penis and cooked it. And cooked it. And there was over 6,400 laugh emotes and a whole bunch of people in the comments making jokes and something no. It's domestic violence always bad. Like,
Always.
and it wasn't like, and apparently it wasn't like a Lorena Bobbitt where he was abusive to her too. So okay, he still was wrong with
Right.
it. You get it.
That's what I was wondering, if it was one of the. And the thing is, I think that when that sort of thing happens, I think there is often an assumption that, like, oh, there must have been that kind of something else. Something must have been done to her that was even worse, kind of thing. But yeah, which probably, and regardless, of course, it's wrong. It's just that's probably one of the reasons people laugh at that sort of thing.
No, there was a few years ago when Sharon Osbourne was joking about
Right, I remember that.
another instance where the woman cut the guy's penis off, then she put it in the blender.
Yeah.
Right.
And she thought that was hilarious because she's just like, she can just kind of picture it bouncing around in there. And it's just like, well, that's horrific. I mean, what is funny about this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we obviously, if the roles were reversed, it would be definitely
Right.
most people. Yeah, there's still part of the He-Man Woman Haters Club that would still think that was great because they're fucking disgusting pigs.
Right.
But still, most people would say that's really fucked up and bad. So I don't know. It's like I was talking to Suzanne earlier about it. I said, I can't stand He-Man Woman Haters Club. That this is one point that they do bring up that is a little valid. That's like we're inconsistent about how we react to domestic violence.
Yes. That's
Right.
true.
Because the men can't be victims kind of thing is real.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is about framing. And if something is framed in a way at the beginning that makes it stick, good luck overcoming that.
Yeah.
There's that boxer from the Middle East.
Oh yeah.
Where, yeah, the right wing is swearing up and down that she's trans, or that she's a man, and she's not. She's
Right.
just not. Like, they still refuse to accept that. I mean, I get stuff on because Facebook has just gotten disgusting with the stuff that they just pump right through. But I get stuff all the time about her, and it's like all bullshit stuff. It's just like, the Olympics are not allowing her to compete. She's been stripped of all of her medals, which all
false.
but one.
Right.
Which is false anyway.
Yeah, it's all false, and it's just like, and they're giving those medals to a real woman, and it's just
Yeah.
like,
Like, not trans. She's a
not,
woman.
she's not trans.
She's still be a woman, but she's not trans, so they can't use that.
And the comments on these posts are just disgusting. I mean, it's just, yeah, hey, yeah, that's what he deserves. He deserves to have everything. Number one, she. Number two, even if you don't believe that she is a she, she's still a she.
Right.
Your bigotry about me does nothing to change what she is.
Right. It's and of course, it's especially a problem when I've noticed, not in every single case, but in the majority of cases where they're going down this line, the athlete in question is black or brown.
Yeah. Not always,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah.
And then there was like, what is it? What the fuck is her name? Just one person who's on Trump's dick, and they're saying how, and they're using her as saying like, oh, she was cheated by a trans woman. She came in fifth. The trans woman
place. Yeah.
Riley Gaines.
Riley Gaines.
Riley Gaines. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gaines,
yeah. So neither of them got a medal. And that's the thing that's funny. So the trans woman that they're so overwhelming and they beat everybody. She came in fifth, tied for fifth.
Yep.
Riley couldn't gain a spot.
Yeah.
No.
And so it's like, even if you remove the trans woman from the sport entirely,
She still lost.
She still came in fifth. So,
Yeah.
But yet people fucking eat it up. They just say, oh, she got cheated. No, she got cheated. Nothing. In fact, she didn't even lose to the trans woman. She tied.
No, they tied.
Yeah.
They tied. And one of the names, and one of the names had to go first, and it wasn't hers. And that's what she got all bent out of shape about. I didn't lose good enough.
Right. And if she tied for fifth, that means that there were 4 other people that came in ahead of her and the person she tied with.
Right.
So she's fifth or sixth, depending how you want to roll it.
Well, she blames that all obviously on the trans woman because of course she does.
But that's the whole grift. That's the whole thing with grifting. It's like you find this little tenuous whatever you can latch onto as being your thing and your grievance, and then
So
yeah,
trans women cannot fence against cis women anymore. They can't play chess.
Chess?
Trans women cannot play in the women's chess league anymore because
yeah.
trans women have an unfair advantage at chess.
Yeah.
But people complain about trans women in beauty pageants because there's clearly an unfair advantage there.
That's my favorite one. So wait. So I'm like, so I want to say to the right wingers about that. So you think trans women are so beautiful and attractive
Right.
that they're going to beat all the cis women? Really? Tell us about that, huh?
Let's unpack that.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. But that's the thing, Fox News and the right wing machine has got these people so wound up, that they just don't make any fucking sense anymore.
Well, and that's the thing that worries me the most because again, Trump's going to die eventually. I keep hoping every morning when I wake up, like, come on, McDonald's, do your thing. Like, at some point he's going to be dead and it'll pass on to somebody else. But Fox will continue to be there. OAN will continue to be there.
And the mess he made will be left behind too.
Yeah, and as long as there's these propaganda machines pumping out this hate vitriol stuff, now. I will say one thing though, because I've seen a few people that are like, "Oh well, then we'll just get Vance and he's working." I'm like, no, he isn't, because he does not have the cult of personality around him. Nobody likes him, not even Republicans. No one's afraid of him, especially not Republicans. So
I keep saying the same. I keep people, oh, but Vance is worse. He might be worse as far as he has less of a worldview than Trump does. He has fewer core beliefs than Trump does, believe it or not. He is a political windsock and he's just going to whatever the wind is going. But nobody gives a shit about him. He doesn't have any power.
Did you see him ordering donuts? He couldn't even order donuts. He was the most like just the most awkward person that you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, whatever makes sense.
Whatever, can I get chocolate frosted? Whatever else.
Whatever it is that normal people get here. God, it was so cringy.
I would like to order food like a human, please.
Right.
Oh god, I think he is an AI, like a really, really bad. He's a really bad large language model. I guess he's a small language model. His vocabulary is rather limited.
Yep. Yeah, some sort of incomplete language model. Yeah.
Oh god.
As bizarre as it is, he's blue collar relatable, and it has nothing to do with anything other than the way he speaks.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that pissed me off about that. I was like, look, I grew up in a blue collar household. I mean, I became white collar, but I'm blue collar stock. That's why I'm pro labor, because I'm blue collar stock, right? But but I'm not hillbilly hick enough. And I don't know when in our lifetimes being a shit kicking fucking moron became like synonymous with being like salt of the earth. It's almost like what's
it's the he's one of us kind of thing. That's the
it's kind of like what's it Blazing Saddles. When Gene Wilder's talking to Cleavon Little, is these people, the common clay, salt of the earth, moron.
In New Jersey, well, I mean, you guys know, in New Jersey, and I am surrounded by Confederate flags and closeted Klansmen. And Trumpers. This is Trump country where I live, and you know, all the men here, they've all got beards down to here. They're all in pickup trucks with gun racks with no guns because it's New Jersey. But they, you know, the standard issue for men as far as what they're wearing here is camo. They all wear camo all the fucking time. It's not like military camo. It's hunting camo. It's camo.
Right. Which is crazy
It's like-
because deer will walk onto your fucking property because they're deer in New Jersey and they're dumb.
Yeah, and then what are you hiding from? They can smell you.
Yeah.
Shit, everybody can smell you.
Well, just like the Duck Dynasty guys, right? I mean, you know, you've seen the picture of like where the other one, they're from California and they're all prepped.
Oh, they have they have their golf gear on. It's a complete. They're completely artificial.
That's right. Just like that same thing with Larry the Cable Guy. He's not from the South. He's from Nebraska. His name is Dan Whitney. You know, so he's actually originally kind of doing a caricature of his audience, and they ate it up. He was making fun of them, and then he became one of them.
Yeah, he was doing Earl the Redneck.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's crazy, and then but yeah, all you got to do is act like you're a fucking shit kicking hillbilly, and
and also we're talking about like that sort of culture being in like how does that end up in New Jersey? But that's of course the rural urban suburban kind of divide, though, because like in a rural area in New Jersey, it's going to be a lot more similar to a rural area, you know, in Virginia. But I live in a pretty densely, I wouldn't say urban, but it's dense suburbs. Let's just say where I am in Northern Virginia, and it's a completely different thing. But that's more a rural urban thing than it is a state thing.
Yeah. You know, the thing is, hey, look, this was what gets me, because obviously, you know, there's definitely rural people definitely have a chip on their shoulder about how people, the city folk look at them. Although it's funny because they're biased against the city people, right? But they only notice the bias against themselves. And it's like, and I was trying to explain this to somebody who they were kind of like they lived in that in between, and they didn't really understand. I said, well, they're like, because I was wondering like why. I said, look, you notice that cities in general tend to be more liberal, and the bigger the city, the more liberal they tend to be. And I said, because when you live in proximity of everybody, it's a lot harder to believe bullshit, you know, stereotypes about people when you see people every fucking day, you know. And I was talking to another guy about, he was saying that, oh, in New Jersey, you guys are all anti-religion. And I'm like, well, no. I said, even back when I was young and I was a religious person, you know, I went to a school, like a third of the people were Jewish. We had a small number of Muslims and some Hindus. And now we have a lot more of Muslims, a lot more Hindus. And not only did we have a lot of Catholics, but we had a lot of non-Catholic, you know, Christians. So when everybody's all different, no one really wants anybody to really talk about it, because you don't want them to come, you know, pontificate at you. You don't want them to proselytize to you. So you don't, you know, in return, you don't do it at them. It's just a sign of respect. So we always get kind of off the table because we're all different. And I said to the guy, I said, how many churches are you in your town? He's like 3. Well, 2 of them were like almost the exact same form of Baptist. And then another one was like as close to Baptist as you could be without being Baptist. So I'm like, yeah, so everyone in your town basically believes all the same shit. All those people who are open about what their religious beliefs are. So it's no big deal for you guys to talk about it because everybody's just like you. Well, come to where that's not true. And I said, well, do you want a Muslim coming up to you and telling you about Muslim stuff, or Hindu telling you about Hindu stuff? And, well, not really. Well, there you go. That's all this is. It's just respect to other, you know, that, you know, we're all different. So I said, this is the problem. I said, we people that live out in the middle of nowhere, you're in your little pocket and you think everybody is just like you. I had an argument with a guy online. He was saying like liberals want to destroy everything. I'm like, well, why do you think that they want to destroy everything? Why can't they just be wrong, like from your perspective? No, they know what's wrong. I'm like, well, what makes you say that? He said, well, everybody knows what's right and what's wrong, and they're doing what's wrong, and therefore they want to cause harm. I'm like, why can't they just have a different opinion? He's like, well, he was incensed in this idea that or stuck on this idea that everybody knows what's right and wrong. Like, that's not the case. That's just the problem. Everywhere where you live in your little bubble, and everybody around you is just like you, so you think that's what everybody thinks, but that's not what everybody thinks. So you need to step out of your bubble, and then you'll find that, and maybe those other people are wrong, right? Maybe you're right and the other people are wrong, but that doesn't mean that they quote unquote know they're wrong. They think they're right.
Genius, of the right wing, news sphere. Fox News, has been selling the idea to older suburban folks that everybody in the city is out to get them and they're all evil, and everybody in Hollywood is, some kind of queer devil worshipping demon rats that, need to be silenced because they're clearly trying to destroy the country. In March of last year, when Tucker Carlson was still on Fox News, it was on my birthday. That's why I remember it so well. He actually told his viewing audience they need to take up arms against trans people.
Yeah.
That was permissible. Nobody said shit. When then there's a trusted newsman telling people, yeah, you should shoot trans people. Just shoot them.
That was fine. But then when they got sued for the Dominion lawsuit, then that was like, oh no, that's bad. Like once they start, they're fine with saying anything unless it's losing them money, and that is a problem.
Yeah.
There sure be some monsters in Hollywood. There really are monsters in Hollywood. There's a lot of really awful people in show business.
Russell Brand,
and yeah,
the most recent example, one of them.
Right. That's middle school level at best. Yeah, I see it all the time. Demon rats. Instead of Democrats, they say demon. I see it pretty much daily on Facebook.
Especially Janine Pirro, who's now like the acting, was AG for DC.
Yep. She's the acting AG for DC.
So it's like, well, when that person, so how fair and balanced, what kind of equal protection under the law are you going to get when the person who's the EAG calls people from one party demon rats?
Yeah, it's not a particularly inspiring type of message, but I see people do that sort of thing all the time. Just making bad wordplay on something that just kind of, I instantly subtract like 30 IQ points from whatever I'm assuming they are originally.
Isn't Alina Hava our acting AG?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She's trying to act like an AG anyway.
She should start by acting like a lawyer that can actually win a case.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem. She's acting. She doesn't know how to do it. She's just playing at it. She's a bad actor at that. In so many ways.
And a bad lawyer.
Yes. Right. Well, again, because she doesn't give a shit about the law, obviously, at all. And that's the thing that worries me the most is like, I don't know how this is ever fixable. Now, yes, once Trump is off the scene, things will get somewhat better. But
there is no fixing it.
So we just broken forever now?
I don't think we're necessarily broken forever, but if there's definitely a risk that the country is, if there are enough laws regarding elections and that sort of thing, so that there are technically elections, but they're unwinnable by anyone but Republicans on the national level, and enough on the state level so that it becomes sort of Republican dominated, and it's very difficult to break that because of all the laws they piled. That's kind of like what's happened in Hungary. Hungary was a perfectly, at least a reasonably well-functioning democracy, and it was completely broken now by Viktor Orban and his party. And in a lot of ways, Turkey has gone somewhat that same way as well. Like Erdogan, pushed through these things that didn't, stop limiting his power. And then Russia, the same sort of thing happened. Russia hadn't had that much of a history of it, but so their democracy was pretty easy to break, and it certainly could happen here as well in similar fashion. I don't think that's a foregone conclusion that that's the case, because a lot of the stuff that Trump's doing right now is executive orders. It's not even laws that are going through Congress, and there's a very good chance that Congress is going to be in Democratic hands in about a year and a half. After the election in about a year and a half. So that at least can be something of a check, but there's still a lot of risk there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm just talking about societally, I mean, even if we can legislatively stop the worst things from happening.
So here's, we can't fix it. Like, what would end up happening though is people filter out. Some of these folks are going to hang on to, stop the steal, and Trump was sent by God, and they're going to hang on to that until they die. If we can, shore up the education system, and get some folks through school better educated, better critical thinking, and seeing clear propaganda for what it is. Maybe there'll be fewer people in the future that believe that Trump is the second coming of Christ.
Well, again, I'm talking about even in a post-Trump world, because that will happen eventually, right? He's not going to live forever.
Right, but that's what I mean, though. Those people are going to filter out over time, because the people right now that you see online talking about demon rats and Trump was sent by God, they will die.
Right.
They will die. Some will come to their senses.
Well, that's one thing I was thinking about too, is that because we know that because of the stupid policies of right wingers and not only of the government but also of the people, a higher percentage of red staters died from COVID than blue staters. And I'm like,
they didn't need no damn mask. So
I'm thinking, as scary as it is having, I call Robert F. Kennedy the Jr. the plague czar, because that's what he is. He's but if we end up with another thing under him, because it'll be much worse, because they won't do anything, right? They're just they go to work and do everything, and so maybe if that happens, that will be the one good thing that will come out of RFK Jr. is that maybe we'll have a the next plague will proportionally remove part of the problem for us.
No, it almost got Trump in October of 2020.
Oh, I'm like, close.
It definitely would have changed the timeline a bit.
Yeah, he was reportedly very sick.
Yeah, he was very sick. He very well could have died if he were not the president and didn't have that kind of health care that they absolutely would pull out all the stops and do everything they possibly could. If he were just a regular citizen and not a billionaire, not the president, etc., he probably would have. There's a good chance he would have died.
Yeah.
What gets me? I was just looking at the comments. What gets me about the people that are surprised now, particularly people who voted for him and they're surprised that things aren't going the way that they had hoped. If this was his first term, I get that people didn't know what he was all about. They couldn't see through the flim flam. No, but he did this before, and he said now he's doing it 10 times harder. You can't be surprised anymore. That's bullshit. You're a fucking moron or a liar, one or the other, because he did. This is not new. This is not a new thing of his. I mean, it's new in that he's doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down, going on even harder down the same road. But he's been down this road before.
Yeah. but there are a lot of things too, like once he left office in disgrace last time, it was a very concerted effort by Republicans to rehab his image, starting with Kevin McCarthy going down to Mar-a-Lago and kind of saying, hey, we still want you in the fold, kind of thing. And then everybody spun up to rehab his image, and 4 years later, it was rehabbed enough so that he could still manage to win.
I really want to know what he has on these people.
He doesn't need to have anything on those people. He just needs to be able to convince them that, hey, we still have our coalition. We can still win. We can still do this. You need me because I'm charismatic and blah, blah, blah. He doesn't need to have anything on those people for them to go along with it, because they saw him as their best shot at winning again. And if they didn't rehab his image, they would need to have somebody who was not in his mold. And I think they thought that was the easiest path, and it turned out they were right.
Lindsey Graham.
Yeah. See,
how disgusting has Lady Lindsey been through all of this for the last, 9 years?
Yeah, he's
shameless.
Just shameless, and I'm surprised. Like there's a lot of, let's just say the rumor mill has been in overtime on him and his life, and yet here he is feeling perfectly free to immiserate other LGBT people.
Well, that's his beard, right? That's what a lot of people do, right? It's and it's been, and every homophobe is not secretly gay, but there are more than enough.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre. And I get if you come from a part of our a subculture where being gay is the worst thing you could possibly be, and
right,
you have to just kind of lie to yourself or kind of mask it, whatever. A guy like Ted Haggard, I actually feel a small bit of compassion for Ted Haggard.
Oh, jeez.
The guy's clearly gay.
Yeah.
But in a culture that's, being gay is the absolute worst thing you could ever even contemplate, let alone being gay.
Right.
That he had so self-loathing that he had to be this, major, homophobe, when look, we know that he's a gay. He hasn't admitted to himself, but he's a gay dude.
Right.
And but at Lindsey Graham's level, it's like, look, at this point, it's not even a secret, right? Everybody knows Lindsey Graham's gay, right?
Right.
It's like but yet he still beats that drum.
Both of the senators from South Carolina are closeted gay Republicans. Tim Scott being the other one. Or actually, is he? I think he's the other senator, right? Yeah, him and Tim Scott. And Tim Scott had the whole, like, when he was running for president, they were like, oh, he's proposed to his girlfriend, and then that suddenly disappeared once they realized that he wasn't going to be up for any position, because he was aiming to be the VP for a while.
Right.
And then there was this whole thing about, he's proposed to his girlfriend, and then suddenly that disappeared. So he's still single, I guess.
So James Carville, he has a history of having a brilliant political mind and a very colorful, creative way of getting his thoughts across. But it's also time that he shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it was 30 years ago when he worked his magic. He did it in a time that was completely different than the time we're in now.
Yeah.
And he doesn't.
He's been nothing but wrong.
Yeah.
For quite a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. That's why I made a video about it, stream about it. I don't know, a few weeks ago, where I just said, yeah, David Hogg's right. And the thing is, David Hogg is actually said what I've been saying to progressives and leftists for quite some time. The way, the thing is not to throw a tantrum during the general election and let the Republicans win. The way to get what you want is to try to co-opt the party to the best of your ability in the districts where pretty much any Democrat can win. Get the most progressive person you can to be the the nominee, and then they will almost certainly win unless they do something ridiculous.
Mhm.
They're going to win, and then that's how you make the Democratic Party more progressive. And politicians are cowards. All of them are cowards. The best ones are cowards. They all want to win. So if they see the reason why the Democrats tacked to the right for so long is that they saw the Republicans win. And they said, well, okay, that's what won, so maybe we need to be more like that. Of course, it hasn't worked very well for them, but that's what they saw.
Mhm.
So if they start seeing liberal, leftists and progressives winning in places, they won't be so hostile to the idea. They won't be so afraid of that wing of the party anymore. So David Hogg. Yes, I've been saying that for 20 years. Do that. Do what he said. He's right.
Yeah, but now he's been voted out, I guess, because someone didn't like him, and I think they already took him out.
He's already out. That's a shame.
Joe, you're on the Google machine there. You can figure it out.
No, he's still there. DNC Vice Chair David Hogg on Democratic Party.
Is he? Okay. All right. Like I
mean,
they haven't yet.
I'm sure there's effort to try to marginalize him or push him out, but that's a mistake.
Yeah.
It's a mistake because the thing is, I mean, now he's Gen Z, I believe, right?
He's what?
Yes.
Gen Z. Now, I'll say this: don't depend. We're not. We should never ever depend on the youth vote because the youth vote just doesn't show up. That's just historically true. However, there's the millennial vote. And millennials are similarly, maybe not the exact same level of progressive as the Gen Z, but they're pretty close. So that Gen Z voice, he's still speaking for a lot of people who do vote now, or who have aged up to the point where they do participate. So, I mean, we're not going to win by listening to old fuddy-duddies about what worked 30 years ago. I call it Maginot Line thinking, right? It's basically, well, we fought World War I, and that was all trench warfare. So we built the Maginot Line, which the Maginot Line actually did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, they just went around it.
Well, yeah, just went around, and that was actually expected, but they still weren't prepared properly.
Right.
And
Buddy Duddies, Joe. I think a lot of them, it's more about moneyed interest.
Yeah,
Get money. They don't want to give anything up, and he's a threat. He's a threat to a game that they've had going for a long time now, and they don't want to give that up. It'd be easier just to get rid of him.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, and I understand it. Like people with money and power try to do what they can to hold on to their money and power. That's why
they use their money and power to hang on to their money and power.
Exactly. That's why I laugh about the whole Illuminati bullshit. I'm like, no, you don't need a conspiracy when you have convergent interest. Rich people know what it takes to keep their money and power, right? That's how they got it in the first place. So they just do what's in their interest. They don't have to conspire to get everybody pretty much on board, right? They just know what's in their interest, just like companies do now. The companies used to have fair wars in the airlines. You don't have that anymore because they realized, hey, if one airline raises a fee or raises a price and the rest of us do it, we all make out. None of us lose money. We don't have to lose money on a fair war. We can just all jack up the price, and we all, as long as we all do it, we all make out. It's an unspoken cartel.
It's clear that despite everything, basically, like Rome is burning. And you have Hakeem Jeffries going, what can we do? We just, we can't do anything. We'll watch it burn. We can't.
But Republicans, when they were out of power, they did not do that. Even though they were out of power, they still had things that they're like, hey, we're going to change public opinion. We're going to spend literally $295 million in anti-trans ads, and we're gonna advocate for our agenda. And Democrats need to do the same thing in the other direction and advocate. We need to advocate for our agenda, even in times when we're not in power. So
I think for far too many of them, it's not about being in power, and it's not about winning elections. It's about maintaining the gravy train, and they don't want to upset things. So the entire party has run away from trans people.
Yeah, has been a lot of that too, because there was like Kamala could have very easily been a lot better on the trans issue in general. She didn't have to. It's like she was moving so far to their position, like so far that she didn't want to talk about it. But that's not the way to advocate. You don't have to say like, oh, it's a super important issue. You don't even have to do that. You just have to not accept the premise that it's a problem. Right. But she couldn't even do that. Like she sort of was hinting, like the way that what was it that she said? She said, "Oh, we're going to follow the law," but that's such a weak answer, and just was not what was needed.
Yeah.
You can't beat Trump by copying his policies. I mean,
well, there's a difference between policies and methods.
Right. You can't beat him by copying his policies, but you're definitely not going to beat him by not standing up to his policies.
No.
Well, and the thing is, look, I mean, Jeffries is right in that legislatively there's not a lot to be done, but only because there hasn't been a lot of actually legislation. You know, you can't vote against a legislation that's not out there, right?
That doesn't mean there's nothing you can do.
Right, exactly.
Right. You change public opinion. You can do things like what Bernie and AOC were doing. You know, going out there and getting gathering support, connecting to people.
I'm like, handcuff yourself to something. Get in the way.
That's a thing you could do. I'm not sure if it's the most effective thing, but hey, it worked for Laura Loomer, right? Did she hang up herself and now she's like Trump's buddy?
I mean, if you don't stand for anything, what's that saying? If you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for anything, right? Yeah. So, if they're not standing for anything, then why are they there?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people that shouldn't be there.
Well, one thing that I heard yesterday, apparently there have been articles of impeachment introduced in the House.
Yes. And
it was done in a way that they can't just ignore it. There's going to have to be a vote on them.
Yes.
So
what's his name? Green. Was it Al Green? Al Green.
Yeah. So at least they'll have to address it. And it means they got to that means everyone, Democrat and Republican, have to get on record about where they stand on it, right? And that's going to be very telling for both Republicans and for Democrats. And so now's the time for Democrats to stand up, because that's the perfect opportunity, right? Say, hey, look, we've been telling you he's been violating the law, he's doing all these things. The Republican Party's not willing to do anything. Well, we are, and don't be afraid of it. I mean, God damn it, don't be fucking afraid of it. Like, because what's going to happen? Like, well, you might lose again. Well, you already did that, so go for it, right?
Might as well. Well, I need to head out very shortly. But it was a pleasure hanging out with you guys tonight, and very nice to see everyone that I haven't seen in some years, or even lots of years. In Peach's case, I'm glad to see everybody's okay.
Making videos.
I've made a few videos in the last 3 years, probably. I think the last video I made was like in the fall, and now. Yeah,
I'm in the process of making a video. Everyone on the screen here does have a part in that video.
Which I have already created. I just need to send it to you, trim it down. Yeah.
And Eric, did I tell you you were at least in part the inspiration for my 2019 trip?
The 2019 oh, well, I appreciate that. No, I didn't. You didn't say.
Yeah. Well, you used to do your Facebook friend project on.
Oh yeah, Facebook friends project. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, you did so for
I
anyone
ended it because I got through all my Facebook friends.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's
So for
it.
anybody who doesn't know, what Zaunstar did was every month he did, I think it was 2 people.
It was every day
Oh, every day.
for like about a year and a half. I mean, I would skip a few days here and there, but most of the time, every day it would be 2 people. I would talk about like who they were and how I met them, and something nice about them or whatever. And it was a fun project. It went on for about a year and a half.
Yeah, which I thought was magnificent. And I thought about it. I was like, I love this idea, and I wanted to like take it to another level. Because I realized what happened was, I had, I have a sister that died that I hadn't seen in a long time, and other people in my life that had, either gone away or died or whatever. And I started realizing, hey, look, people always talk about, oh, we should get together sometime. But if all you ever say that, like, it's not going to happen unless you say, hey, let's get together next Thursday at 7. It ain't happening. So I decided, okay, I'm going to devote time to visiting everybody and spending FaceTime with people, because online's nice, but FaceTime is better.
Yeah.
In person is better. So I said, I'm gonna take every opportunity I can to see people that I care about. So my trip originally was supposed to be me going down to Alabama to see family, because I missed the family reunion. And when my Aunt Viola was giving me a hard time because I missed it, and she's so I said, all right, Aunt Viola, I'll come down. And then I started thinking about it because I was going to fly, but where my family lives is rural Alabama, and so you have to fly to like Atlanta and then drive 3+ hours.
Mm-hmm.
So between the flight and getting a car, it's like 10-12 hours of travel. And I'm like, well, fuck, I can drive there in like 17. So and I'll have my own car, I'll be more comfortable. So then as I started thinking about it, while I'm driving, I'm going to be passing by a whole bunch of people that I like, that I haven't seen in a long time, or haven't, in some cases, hadn't met in person ever.
Mm-hmm.
So I started saying, hey, if you're along my route, let me know. And I just started adding people. And then the trip ended up, instead of not in Alabama, then I added Biloxi to go see Zelda and Chepo. And then I added Houston to see a college friend. And then I added Corpus Christi to see Divinity. And then I added Austin. And then I was actually going to go to Dallas, but Aaron, the day I was only going to get a chance to see him for like half a day. And he'd called me up and he's like, well, why are you coming up? And I'm like, well, just to see you. So he's like, stay there. They drove down to Austin and they hung out for a couple of days.
Oh, wow.
But, I drove 2,761 miles and I saw like 32 people on that trip.
Nice. Well, that's a whole other level of commitment.
Yeah, so it was like 15 days of driving, 16 days total.
Yeah.
And between family and friends, of various types. And I got to see all kinds of people. And then I ended up doing the same thing. Obviously, 2020 was COVID, first year of COVID, so that didn't happen. But then when I went out to the Women of Color Beyond Belief conference in Chicago in 2021, I did the same thing, and I did one loop to get to Chicago and a different route to get back, and I saw like 20 some odd people, even including I had relatives in Chicago and friends along the way, people I hadn't seen in a very long time. Nice. And so I've just been doing this every time now. So like last year, I had to do a project out in Seattle. So then I flew out to San Diego, saw a bunch of people, and I basically drove up to the Bay Area. I saw a bunch of people all along the way, and then flew to Seattle, and then you did the job, and then flew home. And I'm going to be doing the same this year. I'll be going to Seattle first, flying to Northern California, and then actually, that might not, because I have a friend who's going to be in Portland, so I'm probably just going to drive all the way down from Seattle all the way down to LA. And visit people along the whole bunch of people I missed last time that I'll pick up this time.
All right. Well, great.
So you inspired me to do that.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. I was trying to inspire something good. But all right. Well, thanks again, guys, and good seeing you. And I'll see you guys around.
Have a good night.
Take it easy.
Bye.
Thanks for coming on.
Welcome. Thanks for the invite.
That was nice.
Yeah, I like Eric. He's awesome.
It is so hot in here. I am dying.
No AC.
Well, if it was on, I couldn't hear you. The AC here is loud.
Loud. And we don't have central air.
Yeah, we don't have central air.
Gotcha.
We great big unit in the wall.
Yeah, and central air, it's not cheap to get. We had to replace ours last summer, and that was a lot of money.
I want to get a mini split.
It's a good idea, and they're relatively cheap.
And they're relatively cheap. Yeah. Yeah. And from what I understand, they work well.
Yeah, a friend of mine that has a couple in his house, and he loves them. So when we get
anything is better than nothing.
Yeah, and that's the thing I actually thinking about doing, because we don't. I'm in my back office, and there's no air conditioner in here, and even though we do have the central air, it's not the greatest in here, so it can get so it get a little cold, a little hot. And
I love the piano.
yeah, we didn't do anything because the long-term plan is we're gonna knock this part down and then extend the slab and build a good master suite, but realistically it's not happening for at least a couple years. So I'm like, look, we got to get something because it gets too fucking hot and too fucking cold in this room, so I can get a mini split, and then we can always use that in the new, once the new part gets built, we can transfer it over, so it's not like it's wasted money. Let me see. Too lazy to get
A mini split is very expensive. That's what I've heard. I don't know how true that is, but I've heard heating with a mini split is just very expensive.
Well, I mean, heat pumps, it's electric, right? So, it's not the most efficient heating system, but but it works. I mean, I got solar though, so I don't. So when you have solar, it's like power. Woo! What electricity? Just turn shit on. Because when we got, what?
I am dying, and it's so hot. I've been sweating all night. The dog is really bothering me, and I think we're gonna cut the show a little bit shorter tonight. I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's all right for me because, like I said, I'm still a little sore.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
Peach and I both had rough days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peach looks like she's had a rough day. Poor Peach. Well, and for anyone's watching the show, if you saw the show last week, you actually got to see my dog Flash. And unfortunately, Flash left us on Monday. He was 15, so he lived a good long life, but it's still very sad. And
It is sad.
so that was his. He's made many appearances on many shows, but that was his last.
So sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, you guys know what it's like.
Yeah, I know that pain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
And he was a good boy. And what he lacked in brain power, he made up for in being loving as hell.
Yeah.
He was
That's
Sylvie is also dumb.
she's dumb as a box of bricks.
But she's a good dog.
Yeah,
She's a good.
and it was such a contrast because Blitzen was his older half sister, and she was very smart as for a dog, and it's like, how did this happen? How do you get this two opposites? But yeah, they're both awesome, and I miss them both.
I guess as far as brains, she got the lion chip.
Yeah.
It's just like you and your brother.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Good point. That's a very good analogy. Very good analogy.
All right. Thank you everybody for watching. We are up to, I saw 7 people at one point, which is
That's an
sadly
improvement.
a lot.
It's an improvement.
So yeah, it's improving. I have no idea who I'm gonna have on for next. Hi, Dawn. Hi. How are you?
Uh-huh.
I have no idea who's gonna be on next week. I would really, really like to get ContraPoints on, but
Good luck.
yeah, that would be hard. I'm not even sure how to contact her at this point.
Um,
I don't know.
ask,
I'll have to see who I can.
ask Josh to be on the show. Meridian Frost.
Meridian Frost. I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good idea. Yeah, he's cool.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
I
will
actually just saw his episode of Forts and Fire again today.
Oh yeah,
That was pretty
very
cool.
nice. I think I'm going to do that. I will ask him. Absolutely.
Okay.
It was great.
Yeah.
I was telling Suzanne, I'm like, see that guy? Like, I know him.
Yeah, right.
And he won.
Yes,
All
he
right,
did.
everybody. Thank you for popping in. And we are. So, good night, everybody.
Good night.